This is about it along the way. So now we have arrived in Wellen, where the emergency letters were first received, and there are still locations here that will actually talk. But there's a restaurant called the Bokkenrijders. That's awesome. And well, this is supposed to be a Bokkenrijders square. I know the real Bokkenrijders don't deserve that much credit. We are at the next location for the Buckriders. This is nowadays called the Buckrider Chapel, but it was originally built in 1187 and was dedicated to the Buckriders on the middle of the road.
Yeah,
so
fascinating.
First we're going to show you this landscape. Really beautiful, but there used to be a farm here. We don't know the exact spot, but by looking at a card we have an idea where it was. There. It no longer exists sadly, but there it was. Still lots of land, but lots of changes. You can see many new houses, but there was one of the poor farmers who had to give that much money to the Buckriders. Up to the next spot. The monument! The second Buckrider monument of the day. So, not the last spot, but the most gruesome spot already. Yeah, not logical order, but it's the order. So from the 2nd of June 1774 till the 5th of February 1776, many people were killed here. They were tortured, gruesome torture, by being strangled and forced into a confession. So please know, they were guilty ones, but they were also innocent ones. In total, more than 400 innocent people have also been executed and condemned as a Buckrider, a Bokkenrider. One of them they cut his right hand off, burned him. The other ones, well, they all strangled them, and 12 strangled them. That's forced in confession, and later burned to death. And 5 of them were just burned to death, so they already knew enough. One of them was a famous one who ordered people to get the emergency letter at the chapel. So no, many of them were also innocent, and it was like a witch hunt. You can compare this to the Salem witch trials. Just as bad, because there were guilty ones. And this time there were guilty ones. Salem, not so much. Please know, Salem was a different case, but it was a literal witch hunt. They forced people into confession, and 36 people were burned here, tortured here. They even took children from school to watch the torture and the hunt. It's sick. You can't imagine that, like 3 centuries ago, almost 2, because it was almost 1800 already. Like, they did this. Sorry, I'm just speechless that they did this here. An open field. I bet they don't want to create a house here, because it's so gruesome. You don't want to live on a field where so many people were tortured in it. Would you? Would you want to live here? You know, where so many people were tortured to death. Because I find burning one of the most gruesome deaths ever. And the fact they did it under torture, so many people confessed, but they didn't do it. You could have to have a neighbor, just like the Salem witch trials, who was against you, wanted your land, and he said, "You're a Buckrider," and they believed it, and you were tortured here at this field. Still looks a bit like the old days, you know? Yeah. They even have a name for it. They call it the Bonderkuil. The most gruesome place in the Welland for the Buckriders. The person who was responsible for ordering all these hunts here was not Jan, what we normally go after, but it was actually a religious one. So this person was even more into getting justice, because people who worked for the church were more about getting justice and ordering people into harder torture. Not that I'm against religion, but please note, people here did suffer. This field is a condemned land. I bet if you put a round pot here, it would go off, because many people died here innocently. Some Buckriders were evil, but there were also Buckriders who did this because they had no money. It was a different time back then. It was really hard to get some bread, even get something for your children to make sure your children would survive to adulthood. So note, Buckriders are evil, but they're also people who had no money. The system was wrong, and that's why these things happened. And that's why it should never happen again. Poverty results into gangs, into bands of thieves, doing reckless things, murdering, slaughtering, doing everything in their power to make someone else's life who does work hard but just had more luck in life. Back then it was all about lines and having luck. A hard time because they also wanted to survive. And it took another century, another century to find out why people were doing this, why people were murdering and torturing people who had more money than themselves. Last spot of the day, the holy tree, our dear Lord tree, onze lieve herenboom. I really was like, what could have been here? Well, at least a dog hates the place. But this tree is, they say, around 1300 years old. The oldest tree in Belgium. Probably. They say probably. This tree is so old, but it has survived many storms. In its heyday, it was like almost 10 to 4 meters long. One side 10, the other side 4. So it was the point the Buckriders would gather. We should go to for Buckriders. We are open for it. Just let us know and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!
Turn your idea into a 3D model. From idea to design, from print to paint, your collector's masterpiece. From characters to buildings, gifts and collectibles. Choose your level. Your 3D model made real at TudorDarkness.